You might see me dealing with my very cute but very currently annoying puppy who is into everything. So I apologize in advance. And also, you're welcome for the cuteness if you have to deal with it. Um, so I want to talk about trauma bonding and personality development and my take on what I see here. Because in my own work, well, first and foremost, I had a conversation with Chris last night. I had this huge hit that because somebody had said to me, I would be able to leave my parents, but I would never be able to leave my partner. And I've always been curious about like the various positions that people are in. Like it didn't make any sense to me. It's like, dude, you could leave a partner any day, but like your parents, like so um I realized that it's not about the position or role that is in that person's life, whether it's your child, whether it's your parent, whether it's an employer, an employee, like whatever it is. It is the trauma bond that binds. So last night, when I had this awareness, Chris was like, oh, well, that's just like, people in concentration camps bonding over their trauma, right? And I'm like, no, that is not what a trauma bond is. And I'm thinking of when I was with this one therapist who was like, I read reviews and it said that she was emotionally abusive. And I was like, oh, I can deal with emotionally abusive people. I've been doing it my whole life, right? Like that's probably more bridging the gap for me. Until she literally asked me to prove myself to her by working on her, but paying her to work on her. And the cognitive dissonance of everything that went on with that was like she would say like, oh, you're a great writer, you're even better than my friend who teaches best-selling authors how to write. And then she would say you need to humble yourself and you can never do a TED talk because you're not special. And I'd be like, wait, what? Like, and this is when I was trying to heal my heart because they were telling me that I needed a pacemaker. So I was there to do my personal work, but she wanted to like supervise me in my like work and humble me. And I stayed for a whole year. So I'm going to talk about a trauma bond because that could have been developed there. And also, I recently, I'm trying to dig myself out, guys. And I recently went from the beginning of my YouTube channel all the way to here to see, like, dude, where did the vibe slip, man? Like, what am I missing? Because obviously, like, my circumstance, if you follow my work, like on a serious level, you've seen the trajectory of the work at work, but not always the given outcome that we would want for the work to work, right? And then the work is surrendering to really letting the self-work work for us instead of using the self-work to say, I'm going to change this for everybody else and I'm going to make this system amazing and I love everybody, so I want them to see that we can all be saved together and we can all heal each other. The work changes when the outer world reflects to you, okay, well, what your work is, essentially. So, because my circumstance, I am a super empath. I mean, I hate the labels. I've never loved labels in general, right? It kind of stresses me out that people have minced themselves into boxes. But then it's weird because over the time, I watched my YouTube channel and I realized I do appreciate the labels, but I only receive the labels based on feedback that I got from my writers and feedback that I got on YouTube. And people would say, hey, one, you're neurodivergent. Ended up being true. Other, your mom's a narcissist. Okay, I read everything. It's classic, right? So the labels fit. And that confused the shit out of me for a long time now. Because as much as my truth has always seen that, like, dude, once you label something, you make it real. Like, I know this to be true in my soul. I feel energetics deeply. Once we have that label, we in our mind become the projector of that. And we often don't let the very thing that we want to change, whether that's ourselves or life circumstances or other people. Those labels I have found to be entrapping. But also, over the years, I have found them to be a launch pad to transcend the labels. So, um, when I finally surrendered to like letting it be real, like, no, from my spiritual standpoint, I can see that we are all one. I can see that, everybody is divine. People are really wounded and they're kind of out of themselves, and that's the problem. And I've always felt responsible to kind of resurrect them or bring them back into their bodies. But on a psychological and three-dimensional lens, I've had to surrender to reality of what labels mean. So over the years, and it goes like this for me, I think. I have intuited my own interior theoretical GPS. So I have synesthesia, but I also have aphantasia. Aphantasia means I can't see images inside of my mind when I close my eyes. I am very visually dependent, ironically, but I have a mind's eye blindness. So actually, I just took this like proprioception test the other day. Like my feet don't send signals to my brain to tell me where I am in space. I'm very reliant on what I see. So people look at me and they're like, "Oh my God, you're seeing this so deeply, or you're psychoanalyzing, or you're dissecting." I'm like, "No, dude, I'm just seeing. Like I'm not even deep here, dude. I'm just seeing, right?" So um that inner GPS for me has been where I kind of, if I was having to drive to the beach, we always go to this same spot. And I would know how to get there based on landmarks, based on the way that the wind moves in certain fields at what time of year. I would smell the air. I would know we go left here, there's a tree line there. And there would be feelings associated with the geography for me. But when I was reflected over the past, like, however many years, even though I have a master's degree in psychology, I've always kind of been like, guys, like if we really want to change that, we have to change our minds about it also, because we are creating, right? And we are creating what we see as much as what impacts us. So I realized when I'm getting these labels and I'm receiving them and I'm going, oh, wait, this is just a street sign. And normal people, and I hate to say normal, I know that you know what I mean, they follow street signs, right? Because I would be like, hey, follow this tree to here and this thing to there. And you'll know by the way that it'll smell like chocolate here, right? Like I would give directions based on an intuitive felt sense that I can feel. And I can show you what I see, but I can't see it when I close my eyes. I have to literally be there to feel it. So I have explained things in my language. I have come up with words over these years, and I've been nursing and staying at home with my kids and, really just in my life trying to heal myself. I do not follow a lot of people's content. But when I realize, oh my God, there's street signs for this. I'm not the only one here. Like I lost my own words. And I started using other people's, and those are the labels, right? Because they do fit and they do make sense. But that kind of threw me off in a way, because it's like I had to go from using my interior GPS to going back to MapQuest, where people are like, follow it this way. And now I'm like on the ground in a different way, where I'm like, okay, now I have to look for street signs. I have to be kind of hyper vigilant about what this is, and know, like, so I can communicate with other people what's going on here, right? But it's taken a lot to kind of, I had to almost deboot my own intuition over the last few years. And I can see that so clearly when I go back and watch my YouTube videos. So last night I'm having this conversation with Chris, okay? And I want to go back to this therapist really quickly. She at one point told me two things. You have Stockholm syndrome. Okay, very true. Thank you very much. Label, but fair. And then also, if you're not lying about what you're saying, you would have cut your mom off. So essentially, she's saying, I don't believe you. You're either exaggerating or you would have cut her off. But somebody who knows about Stockholm syndrome saying that to you makes you feel like a giant liar. And again, it's more like I'm sitting in front of my mother who would say one thing and then do another. And you can tell that they don't add up and that like it's almost weirdly intentional. So I'm telling Chris last night, no, it's the trauma bonds that bind, man. And everybody who's like out there probably already knows this, right? But it's not, oh, why can I cut my mom off, but not my boyfriend? Why can I, blah, blah, blah. You can't cut the people off that you're trauma bonded with. And that is the problem. And that's kind of what I was talking about in that video about why are so many people going no contact with their parents. It's not a dig on people who go no contact with their parents. It's that people who are truly trauma bonded find it very, very hard to take in that information. Like when my therapist said to me, you're either lying lying or you would cut her off. If I knew how to cut her off at that point, don't you fucking think I would have? Like, duh, I'm not stupid. I'm empathic and I feel the feelings that other people, and this is the biggest thing that I've come to recently, which stresses me out to know, they don't feel. They are so void in their body of any semblance of selfhood that they do not feel actual emotions. They do not feel yours and they don't feel theirs. And they will feel insulted when you let them know that you feel what they can't feel in themselves. And then they will want to try to take power from you and make you feel like you're insane. So, I'm going to read you really quickly. This is just the AI overview of trauma bonding. So we all get clear about what this is. This isn't, oh, my friends are sitting around talking about trauma. No, that's connection. Okay. And yeah, trauma can be bad vibes, but if somebody's not trying to inject you with their trauma and get you to carry it and be like, I need you to save me from this, they're just sharing like this shit is fucked up. That's just called connecting. That's called friendship, right? So, and yeah, it can be bad vibes for sure. Like maybe you don't have to stick around for that, but that's not a trauma bond. Okay? People might bring you down. That's not a trauma bond. A trauma bond is an unhealthy emotional attachment that forms between a person experiencing abuse and their abuser, often stemming from a cycle of abuse and intermittent positive reinforcement, making it difficult to leave the relationship. It occurs when someone develops a strong emotional attachment to someone who has caused them harm, often in the context of a relationship characterized by abuse and trauma. This attachment can arise from a pattern of abuse punctuated by periods of positive reinforcement or affection, creating a cycle that can be difficult to break. Trauma bonds can occur in various relationships, including romantic relationships, family dynamics, even friendships or professional settings. Signs of a trauma bond include feeling attached to the abuser despite their behavior, rationalizing or making excuses for their behavior's actions, Ugh, difficulty leaving the relationship even when it's abusive, feeling a sense of hope and reconciliation even after experiencing abuse. Oh my God, isn't that the thing, right? It's like, oh my God, now I know it's going to be fine for a little bit. Ugh, experiencing intense emotional swings, such as intense periods of love and then intense anger and devaluation. The cycle of abuse and positive reinforcement can create a sense of predictability and dependence, making it difficult for the abused person to leave. Breaking the trauma bond can be a challenging process, but it's possible with support and a strong support system. That's what a trauma bond is. So, one of the comments, and thank you to whoever said this, I appreciate it because I can see that you can see both sides of that. So I have gotten a lot of shit for my, like, I don't necessarily think that no contact, a lot of family systems are workable. True personality disorders show up in like up tops to 5% of the people on the planet. Um, and I work with people who I have seen graduate in their family system. It is generational healing is possible. I see it, I know it, it's here, it's available, right? And I didn't consider that doing the cutoff method would ever make that so, right? So somebody said, I do not know why she would ever let her parent around her children and think that that was a good idea. But it also shows how bad it must have been for her to think that that was normal. So I was groomed to worship my grandfather, who is a pedo abuser, um, total malignant psychopath. Um, and I was groomed to be his little rosebud. That's what I was called for some reason. Um, and my mother was also jealous of that. As much as she kind of handed me off like a sacrificial lamb, she would be like, well, you're his favorite now. But that favoritism came at a cost. And I think everybody knew what that cost was. So, um, and then, you know, I was groomed to elicit my own children into that cult-like structure. And because it kept, I was obviously a way better demarcation of like normalcy than them. So I would think, okay, I can show them the reality and they're going to obviously know, like, this is dysfunctional, this is functional, right? But dysfunction rips and rips and rips and rips until a healthy, functional system becomes separated in the psyche of one person and in a family system. So I, um, let me go here. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna lose it all. I'm trying to blend things here. I'm doing my own work. I've always done parts work, but I also am a student of A Course in Miracles. And ugh, I'm not trying to undermine any modality when I say what I'm about to say, but um, I will not. There is a part of me that my therapist, who I love, would have me in the modality believe is me. But I will not and cannot accept that because I am an energetic being. And I know that I have been infiltrated and hooked. And sure, I have the capacity to unhook myself, but I have so many hooks. And I cannot buy or believe. It's not that I cannot, it's that I've done that my whole life, and that's the problem, actually. I have believed in potential of the self in the other, and I had to get to a place where know that it is really truly void, and it is not my responsibility to resurrect this person. They're not coming back, but they can't crucify me because the truth is I've let them do that the whole time and they're still not resurrected. So I, we might call this a negative interject, right? But I believe it is an actual energetic hook that is not me. And okay, here, let me go here. So if I had to draw this out in my mind, the way I see splitting, fragmentation of the psyche, right? It's like, okay, we're born, we have a circle of a personality, right? And then if we have a trauma and say here, okay, this actually happened by accident, but say we go here, we split off, right? And then maybe we split here too, like a split ends of a hair, right? In a healthy, so say like if we go polyvagal theory here, you're not, if you run away and you get out of that traumatic situation and use your physical body to like have momentum, the energy's not going to stick there. So this diffusion of personality that would pivot could eventually kind of grow back together like skin. Oh, I'm going to go there, I guess. So the thing is, though, if if you have a trauma bond, and this is where personality development in children of narcissists, if you have a trauma bond, and all of a sudden this person goes, "Oh, let me stick myself right there," and it's like a thorn under your skin. Oh, there's another split. Let me stick myself right there, and it's not themselves; it's the program of complete viral infection, right? It's like, well, you don't get to do that. You don't get to be that. So, if they have this idea because they're not in their bodies, oh, I can put myself in that person and then I exist, right? To some degree. And the energy that they put there is not positive. But what they will do essentially is stick a wedge right here. So if you think of it like a splinter in your skin, it's like, oh, if you don't get that out right away, it's going to hurt like hell. It's not going to be you. And because it's in your body, other people will think, oh, well, look, that's a half wooden and a half like person. And nobody would say, oh, that's you. That splinter is you, right? But in psychological abuse, people will tell you that splinter is you. And eventually that splinter, you can push itself out of your body, right? But if you have them all over your body and your skin is healing around them, and you go to people and you say, no, I'm really in a lot of pain, like you can't see it, but I can feel it everywhere. And like, I'm telling you, it's not my material. Like, this is not, something is in my body. And then if somebody cut you open and pulled it out, they would go, okay, you're not crazy. We don't get that same grace in psychological abuse. So this fragmentation of, okay, so a normal trauma would happen. Ideally, you don't get PTSD because you exercise it, you run to your mommy, something happens that you have support on the other side of that, and you get the discharge in the presence of somebody who's safe. And then your skin can grow back together with ease. But if you have somebody like a narcissist who sees a hole that you got the day before and they go, oh, you know what? That's a good fucking thing to exploit that little weakness. Let me shove something real big in there. And then they can say, oh, it wasn't me that did that. That was your experience yesterday. You had a little hole. But what they really did was they exploited that little hole and they put a piece of themselves or their desire to make you less of yourself or whatever that is. I ain't even gonna name it. They put it in there and then they say, well, it was because of that other thing and you're crazy. They had nothing to do with it. So the trauma bond is what binds. It's what makes it hard to leave. And when other people and will say like, well, this has to be you. And I might have been somebody who believed this at one point. Like if I could just tame these thoughts and then I could like, oh, I could relate differently to these people. No, it's not me. This is not a part of me. This is a part that latched onto me, that is a succubus in my internal psyche, that is a splinter under my skin, that my skin has grown scar tissue around, that I have done extreme amounts of work to, you know, what's that like black salve that you put on and you like rest and surgery. I've done it all, right? And I'm still doing it. But the thing is that I really think in narcissistic abuse, there is an energetic of somebody else inserting their parts, which are not even themselves. And that's the problem with the narcissists, they're only held up by parts, right? They're only held up by the illusion of their own inner system. And that inner system is incredibly fragile. So they need the outside world to validate it. But if you have a sense of self, that person will stick their illusion inside of every single part of you that pivots, and they will exploit that weakness and then say, oh, well, the trauma is the reason and I didn't contribute to the trauma, but they just exploited the trauma on top of the trauma. They'll always kick you when you're down, right? Narcissists love to do that. They'll parade you when you're doing great in public and kick you when you're down. And they'll also kick you down to make sure you're down, but kick you harder when you're down for your weakness, okay? So that trauma bond is not just what binds, it is also the thing that makes it so that like a normal healthy person, they would be able to grow their skin back together. Nobody's coming in and saying, here, let me insert something so it's impossible for your skin to do that. But a narcissist and somebody who trauma bonds with you will stick that splinter right in your skin, right? And then look at all the work you have to do to like, if this continues to go because like, okay, something else happens and they cause it or something else caused it and then they just exploit it. Like in my situation, if a boy would break up with me or something like that, well, what'd you do to deserve it? You obviously did something. I can't believe anybody even liked you in the first place, right? So it's not even the overt, and which is all often and was my case. It's also the sub overt of, oh, you had an experience and I'm going to make sure that you suffer for it, even though you're already suffering for it. And they want almost their face to be the narrator of that suffering for some insane reason. And then that's the narration that goes on inside of you. So you got to pull all of these splinters out. If there's wedges of somebody else's psyche inserted in between every fragmentation that you have in a normal healthy psychic system, it would be just like polyvagal theory in that sense of like, okay, we're going to grow back together, we moved out. So and let me go back. So there's studies or experiences, there's you know, awareness of circumstances where there was a group of miners, literal mining in the ground, that got stuck. The one person who dug all of them out was the only person who didn't get PTSD. And the theory behind that is that in nature, mammals don't get PTSD because they have the capacity to only use their fight and flight responses when necessary. In human form, if we can't exercise those responses with our physical body, the energy of that gets stuck in the body, right? And that's like when my mom would hit me, and it's just like, okay, this is like all going into me and it's getting stuck in me and I'm just frozen here. And there was no way to discharge it at that time. But the miner who dug all of them out was the only person who didn't get PTSD in that system. And it was because the theory is that he was able to know that he had the self mastery and agency and mobilize his energy to get them out. The other people who didn't use their energy to mobilize and get them out, the energy was stuck in them of being stuck. So, um, a healthy, even in a healthy relationship, the repair allows for the skin to grow back together, right? It's like, okay, this sucked, but we love each other. We're going to repair this. The skin grows back together. That is not what you experience with a narcissist. A narcissist doesn't want your skin back together. They don't even want you in your skin. They want to be under your skin 100% of the time. So when people I want to just thank that person who commented and said, like, I don't know what would have made her think it would be a good idea to have her kids around her family. I mean, I was groomed to do that, and I can see so clearly after going back and being like, whoa, this is why people watch my YouTube channel. Like, I'm, even though I am in a different place, I believe every single thing I said, and I'm gonna keep up those videos because it has been a journey for me. Like, I really started out as a staunch, like, dude, we don't need to go no contact, psychological distance is enough. And it was enough. But it's ironic, it was enough for me. It's just that when my daughter was the new source of supply, and I could see so clearly what that meant and that she was not equipped, I was still, ugh. Um, that was way too far for me. So again, I had no choice. And now it's like I look back and I'm like, oh, I'm not forgiving you for what you did in the last 2 years. I'm My work is to forgive 40 years of shit that I bypassed because I still believe that your trauma was more important than the trauma that you inflicted on me. So now it's like I was so mad about that, but now it's like, dude, I really can see, like, I was a severely abused person who really wanted to save my abuser. And I still do, I just won't do it now, right? Like, I still want that for her. I'm just absolutely not going to be the person who gives it to her, does it, or whatever. She's got to do that shit on her own. So I just want to say, I'm coming on here to say, first and foremost, thanks for sticking with me throughout this time. Thanks for letting me be who I am. And also, I do believe that these people will literally infiltrate you. And then the world will be like, no, that can't be real. And you're like, it is real. Like the other day, my neighbor's like bitching about my dog barking. The one time ever this dog barked early in the morning because we let him out really early because he was sick all night. And we are just trying to get some sleep. So we're like, okay, we put him out 4:30 in the morning and waited until 6:30. But I knew that this person was like waiting. He just like doesn't want to, he doesn't like dogs. He doesn't want to hear my dogs ever. So he's like, hey, can you like make sure this happens a lot? It's like, no, it never happened. He exploited this, right? He exploited this moment to like bring it up for some reason. I I'm trying to explain to Chris, like, I am not a person, I don't care, like, oh my God, it sucks. Like, I want everybody to be comfortable, right? But I feel the way that he feels about my animals and about us and the way that we care for them when he feels entitled to tell us and exploit that one moment of fragility. And I'm not saying he's like a narcissist in any way, but it was annoying to me that he's lying. My dogs never bark in the night, ever. It's the first time it happened. He's like, this happens a lot. I get an email at 7 o'clock in the morning. No, it doesn't, right? So what I'm trying to explain to Chris, who's like, who gives a shit? We're not going to change our lives. Like we live in town. Um, and I'm like, you don't understand what it's like to be this sensitive. Like, I'm not just hearing him say your dogs are annoying and I want you to change. I'm feeling the way that he's feeling. And if I can't unblend with that feeling, I feel bad about me, right? And it's not even that I'm like, I can see clearly, like, I don't think he wants me to feel bad about me. I don't think that's his aim anyway. Maybe he does, who knows? But what I feel is his energy because he's in my field, and then I take it on, and that's the problem, right? So if you are surrounded by, and that's one moment of me being like, oh, dude, for like 5 hours, I'm like, oh, why did our neighbor have to bitch? Like, why did he do this? I don't want to deal with this, right? That's 5 hours. But imagine being 40 years under that, where somebody is like, you're doing something wrong and you should, I'm going to exploit the one mistake you ever made and I'm going to hold you accountable to it. And every time I look at you, I'm going to be reminded of the time that I let you know that I want you to be accountable to it. And I'm going to look at you from that space, right? 40 years of feeling somebody's emotions like that, who cannot feel them for themselves, it really does something to the psyche, right? If 5 hours of my neighbor bitching and me feeling how he felt that kind of exhausting for my body, I can only imagine the resilience that actually exists in me, right? So I'm saying that to say it is very possible if you are highly empathic. And again, I did that video on the voids of empathy and narcissists and autism because I have a lot of visceral and compassionate empathy, right? And narcissists have a lot going on up here, right? They're not in their body at all. They're not even in their fucking head. And then they make you out of your mind to chase them around to try to find out where they are because they're always shifting somewhere. And your guts, you have to leave your guts to do that process. You have to leave your own body to be in connection to their disconnection. And that is physically not withstandable. So, there are some aspects that I will not claim as my own because I've done that for too long, and that's the problem. And I've also seen the potential of somebody filling their own void with themselves and thought, oh, they're just too far back in themselves. I can just, coax them out a little bit. No, dude, they're too far gone from themselves. Or their self is too far gone from their body. Who knows where they are? But it ain't none of my fucking business either. And I'm getting to a point where sucks for you, dude. Right? I could not be at that point before. I would want to save. I would want to understand, why are you poking me with these things? Why are you exploiting me when I'm just trying to be good? I don't understand. And now it's like I understand enough to know that I don't want to understand your brain. And I already actually do, and that's like also the issue, because the whole time I would understand the blueprint up here and be like, I can help you connect that, dude. Like I can help you kind of sew that back together. But I didn't have um, the awareness that it is really possible that there are people that are so far gone from their own embodiment that they are not coming back. And the more we try to engage them to resurrect themselves, the more we will be crucified and we will be in pain. And those people will, put splinters in you. And then the world will say, no, that's not real. They didn't really, nobody can do that. Nobody has that much power over you. But again, if you were walking into a hospital and you had a bunch of splinters under your skin that they couldn't see on the surface, they'd be like, no, you don't have anything going on. And then if they dug deeper, whatever medical test they would have to do, they would see there is something that is not you inside of you. And that is what happens with a narcissist. So for all of your support system, please, like, and what do you think about this? Let me know what you even think about this. But I feel like it's, again, it's like hard to be believed. Like when I know that in my own being witnessed by my therapist, she has a idea like, oh, this is a part of you. This is not a part of me. And when people look at me like that's true, it's more gaslighting and not intentional, but it's more invalidation. It's more of my therapist saying, oh, if you weren't lying, you would cut her off. It's like, no, dude, this isn't a part of me. And if I claim it like I have for 40 years and nurture it and tend to it and think, oh, this is mine and I'm responsible for it, and, no, that has been the problem. That I believe that that part was mine and it's not mine. And I've taken 100% accountability for it when nobody else will. So there you have that. I hope that was helpful. And I hope you can see how the fragments of personality development in the way that I see it, how they split off and how they could easily be healed by your own system if somebody else wasn't inserting something to make it impossible for them to heal. And that's the trauma bond. And that's what binds. It's not the roles that people play, it's that dynamic energetically right there. I love you guys. Thanks for being here.